How is it that so many people could be a vibrational match to the same thing at the same time? And we say, it's happening every day around your planet. Only most of you are a vibrational match to relative well-being. Some of you are a vibrational match to extraordinary well-being. And we cannot say that everyone that made their transition in this experience of September 11th was not a vibrational match to absolute well-being. In other words, some of them were, you say. Have you given any thought to your transition?
Yes.
Jerry's thought a lot about it. For a while, he was going to do several somersaults off of a very tall building. Because he really likes that, but he's never had a long way to go. And he can do 3 or 4 off of a high board or into a net, but the idea of that is rather thrilling. Esther has more or less talked him out of that. There are those who feel such fulfillment of life and such connection to source energy, who understand that there is no separation between what is physical and non-physical, who understand that there is not even a lapse in consciousness, that it is a matter of closing one's eyes in this dimension and literally opening one's eyes in the other dimension. And that truly is how all death is, no matter how it looks up to that point. The reemergence into source energy is always a delightful thing. So what do you think is behind the trauma of the subject of so many people making their transition at one time? Why do you think you wanted to talk about it?
I think it's the shock of it. Because it seems to appear, instantaneously. I think it was the shock of it. And what might have been. Like I have a son who took that same flight from Boston to the West Coast periodically. He wasn't on it that morning. And one thinks, what if? What if?
And so we'd go back to what we were talking about earlier. Is this something that you would say yes to? And you say, absolutely not. It isn't something that I would say yes to. And then we say, then why entertain the thought at all? And you say, well, because the thought's out there and because people are thinking about it. There are all kinds of thoughts that are beginning to surface of things that might happen. In other words, what might happen? What might they do next? How might we next be shocked about all of this? And what we're wanting you to realize is that the well-being is so powerful. And then friends will say, well, the well-being may be powerful, but this was a shocking evidence that didn't feel like well-being. And we say, rather than calling it shocking evidence that doesn't feel like well-being, let's call it shocking evidence of law of attraction, or let's call it natural evidence of law of attraction. And then let's think about the things that are happening around the planet by law of attraction all the time, and recognize that there are more deaths by virtue of cars on the freeways globally, that because they are happening, as you say, one here and one here and one here, do not get that kind of attention. So the thing that we're wanting to impart to you is that it is not that it is a bigger event than is normal upon your planet. It is that it is focalized in a way that more are using it as their reason to not allow source energy to flow. But it does not matter what excuse you are using as your reason to not allow source energy to flow. The effect of it is the same. And that's what we meant earlier when we said, as a planet, you are no worse off today as a result of using these events as your primary reason to not allow source energy to flow, as you were last week when you were just mad at your neighbor and not allowing source energy to flow, or when you were worried about money or not being able to pay your taxes, or frustrated with your spouse or your children. In other words, it does not matter what excuse you're using to not allow your energy to flow. You're not allowing your energy to flow, so you're thwarting your well-being to that degree. And we give you this information because we are wanting to soothe you from the shock of it. We're wanting to help you to understand that well-being truly does abound. So many emails came in to Jerry and Esther's office during that day and the days that followed that it crashed the server. And once it was restored, Esther asked us if we would offer some words that could be put on the website that were appropriate or soothing in nature. And so we essentially said what we're saying to you here, that well-being predominates and that you cannot watch the television and reconnect with source energy. And then more responses began to flood in response to that. And some who were close to it were offended by our statement of well-being because they're standing in the midst, in some cases a few blocks from where the towers came down, and it felt insensitive to them for Abraham to express well-being when they stand in a place where, hard as they try, they cannot see much well-being from their vantage place. And what we are saying to you is that we agree we do have an enormous advantage in that we can step back far enough to see the whole planet all at once. And in doing so, we want to offer to you our acknowledgement that your whole planet is predominantly one of well-being. And that while so many people are saying everything has changed, what we are wanting to say to you is nothing has changed. If you want to look for change, we would say more are asking, so more source energy is coming forth. If you are saying, but more are resistant, we are saying they are not more resistant, they're just resistant about different things. The balance still exists. The eternal nature of your time-space reality will continue. Your life experiences need not be worse as a result of this. In other words, it really is an individual decision about what you say yes to and what you say no to, about how much energy you allow to flow or about how much energy you don't allow to flow. And to exaggerate what you're bringing forth in a very wonderful way, in a very strong way here, we would say to you, it comes back around to what we've been talking about already here today, where many of our physical friends really need conditions to be better in order for themselves to feel better. And we say, if you need people to stop dying in order to feel better, then you're going to have a lot of trouble feeling good. Even if you say, I need people to not die so many in one place at one time, you're not ever going to be able to feel good. You have to reach the place where you acknowledge that there are all kinds of things that are happening. The thing that we want to really find a way of expressing to you so that you can really feel it. We want you to feel the wholeness of who you are. We want you to feel the intelligence that you are and the God source that you are and the purpose with which you decided to come forth into this time-space reality. And then we say to you, when you reach for those feelings, and sometimes you get it during meditation, sometimes you get it during appreciation, sometimes you get it in a rampage of love, but when you connect with that feeling of who you really are and get just a whiff of the wholeness of who you are, then we would ask you to try from that reference place to imagine, even for a moment, that God source, or even you from your source energy perspective, would ever set yourself up for the horrors of what you have come to believe death is.